I can't even do it now. But send me an email. Which email you? Because I cannot use the same email as before.
Oh, I text you.
Okay.
I text you.
Very good. It's because in the system they already have one email, so they cannot have twice the same email. That's why.
Hold on.
Then I'll do it now. Maybe better. Okay. So it's done.
Okay, hold on. I sent you.
Very good. One second.
There's my email.
Coming. 1 second.
Morning, everyone.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. How are you?
Now you can hear us. Actually, quite okay.
We can. Yes, we can.
Yes, we can. Good morning, Professor Lee.
Morning. Good morning and good afternoon.
Good afternoon, actually. Yes. or good evening. Yes.
Okay.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, Sebastian.
Hello.
Good morning.
Yes.
Hi, Sebastian.
Well, actually, you know, good morning. Good afternoon. Yeah. It's cold in Germany now. 0 degrees centigrade. How is it in the rest of Europe?
Well, in Europe, in Poland, we have -2 or 3.
All right.
Yeah, so a little bit lower.
Okay. And what about Sweden, Anna? Probably cold as well. Huh?
Yeah.
Less cold than in Poland.
Okay.
So around 0, maybe -1. It's beautiful weather here. Very, very pleasant.
But I remember that Seoul can be very cold as well in the winter times.
At this moment, it is 4 degrees, but at your time, somewhere around 9 a.m., it's -2, -1. So we are in a pretty similar kind of similar refrigerator.
Yeah. And is there snow already? You have snow?
Not yet.
Not yet. All right. Here in Munich, we have snow. It started snowing yesterday. Yeah.
Is there any research? The snow may dissipate the spread of COVID-19 or something, or hopefully.
Well, hopefully it doesn't. No, not aware. The aerosols are enough. I assume. Yeah.
Hi, Sewon.
Good afternoon, Sun. How are you?
Good morning to Uppsala,
Good morning.
Bochum, and Lublin.
Morning.
Good morning,
And,
Sebastian.
hi. Good afternoon to Seoul and where is your lady?
Neighborhood.
She's not
Singapore.
yet there. Singapore.
I think she's not here. She's not
Yet here. It's been a few months since we have met last time. Not in Uppsala, but we met online, like this one. And unfortunately, the situation did not improve so much so that, hi, Sebastian, you are there. And therefore, we have to continue the workshop in this form. It's beyond our power, so we cannot change that, and we have to live with it. So, but now Singapore is not yet there, so let's have some chat. Yeah.
Yeah, we chatted already about the weather.
Oh, really?
This is how we started. Yes, and we agreed. Cold. Yes.
Yeah, getting cold now here as well. Yes. Yeah, Lei came. Okay, Lei
okay.
Okay.
Hi, Lei. Hi. Good afternoon to Singapore.
Hi.
Hello.
You are very busy now, right?
Yes, teaching duties.
Managing centers and lots of things.
So say we all. Yeah.
Yes, yes. So today and tomorrow we have a 2-day workshop, and if we meet offline, then the workshop should be a full-day workshop to discuss our papers out and have some constructive comments, and as well as we have some wine and dine to get more from our work. However, it's not possible, so we have to be satisfied with this form of our meeting. Today and tomorrow we have 2-day workshop, and today we have 6 papers to be presented and discussed, followed by some discussion about our project, how to proceed with our project. And then tomorrow is, we have a public open seminar form. Sebastian will present his paper, the politics of Europe-Asia connectivity. And also we have, during the several months we could not meet, we have been able to motivate a few junior fellows, so largely PhD candidates, to write some papers on the topic of our project. And the 3 of them, so 3 papers will be presented after Sebastian's session. So this is what we are planning to do this time. Next time is Lublin, May next year. We have planned. So we don't know how the situation will develop, and but we really pretty much hope that the situation allows us to travel and to meet offline. Face-to-face discussion is really needed and important in this kind of collaborative work. So let's have more discussion about the housekeeping and project matters after we have got discussion about the papers. So the 6 papers will be presented and discussed, and according to the plan, we have 2 papers in session 1 and the 4 papers in session 2. Because time is not enough, I'd like to ask you to make a presentation of your paper within 10 to 12 minutes, so that we have some time for commenting and discussing the contents. Also, probably we have to discuss some ways to convey our comments more effectively, and that I'd like to have a discussion after the papers are presented. So without further ado, I'd like to have Yalehui, you are the first presenter, and then followed by Professor Chun. Okay, let's, if you have any further comments, we can discuss it. If there are no further comments, then Levi, could you start your presentation?
Okay, thank you, Professor Park, and thank you to the German team for organizing this and hosting us. I hope you have received the paper. It was sent a bit late, but I think I had sent it maybe a few days ago, so I hope you'll have time to go through it. As you said, we will have a short presentation. I will not read out my draft paper. Then I also want, before I start, just again to apologize that because of my teaching commitments, I will have to leave after session 1 and will not be able to participate in the session 2 and also the administrative discussions about our project. So please forgive me for not being able to be involved in this. So my paper is on, I hope that's okay if I can start.
Yes, yes, please.
Okay, so my paper is on the EU and the geopolitics of connectivity. Basically, I'm trying to determine what's the EU's role and how the EU in some ways actually already a geopolitical actor when it comes to the connectivity agenda. So I started the paper by saying that connectivity has become a buzzword only in the last decade or so because of the fact that globalization is now, the word globalization is now such a loaded term. And of course, because of the backlash against globalization, the increasing unhappiness and the association of globalization with the increasing inequalities, blah, blah, blah. So connectivity becomes a term that connotes this idea that is about physical connectivity, building pipelines and road and transport, and is therefore not associated with this neoliberal agenda in that sense. So it has become such a buzzword that everybody now is using it. We have, like I said, ASEAN has rolled out its first master plan on connectivity in 2010. You have APEC also with its master plan or its declaration to achieve connectivity through the 4 pillars, blah, blah, blah. So all this is just a quick introduction into how this connectivity term comes to become such a buzzword. Then the next portion of my paper basically is to look at EU's strategy towards Asia and how the ASEM platform has actually been a good forum for the EU in exercising some of its so-called in actually building its foreign policy identity and exercising some sort of agency over the agenda and particularly in this case as it develops into the connectivity agenda. So I started off in this section by looking at, of course, the 1994, the very first Asia strategy that the EU released towards a new Asia strategy, and then from there, going through the whole development of its Asian strategy, and coming to the point that ASEM is actually, to me, a very much geo-economic response of the EU towards the APEC. Right? So already when ASEM was conceived, of course ASEM was not conceived by the Europeans per se. It was an idea that was brought up first by the Singapore Prime Minister. But the very fact that they could latch on quickly to this idea and that within less than 2 years, the first summit was held in Bangkok, showed that the EU in some way saw the opportunity for them to have this geo-economic tool as a response to and the whole APEC vision of having a free trade area of the Asia Pacific by 2020 or 2010 at that time, the vision. So I went through sort of a draft to look into how the Asian strategy of the EU has developed. And of course, we know that when the EU talk about Asia strategy towards, from 1994 to 2006, in reality, there was a lot of a perception at that time that the EU Asia strategy is mainly about China, right? So you see, after the first Asian strategy paper, you have the EU releasing a whole series of paper or strategy paper towards China from 95, the first one in 95, and then 98, 2001, 2003, 2006. And of course, you could again then already see that concern over the, you can say it's both a sense of the challenge that the China or the opportunities that China present with its opening to the world economy. But at the same time, to see that there's of course the whole idea of how the EU should react to a rising China. 2012 turned out to be the year that the EU really moved beyond China to look broadly into Asia, into more to really focus more broadly on the whole Asia Pacific. And this came about because I think of the the Obama's at that time announcement of this pivot to Asia, and the EU again sort of responds to this by also have its own pivot to Asia. And so you see a lot of high-level visits in from 2012, not just to China, but really to Southeast Asia, and this talk about raising the engagement with other Asian partners besides China. And of course, we also see that the geopolitical situation started to change in the Asia Pacific as China began a much more assertive foreign policy approach after 2013 in particular, and especially with the launch of the Belt and Road Initiative. So this, in some way, of course, lead the EU to have a China paper in 2016, which has a very different tone from the very first 5 papers that was released a decade ago, talking about the need to reassess and reaffirm the principles underlying the relationship between EU and China. And then, of course, the frustrations continue until the point when in March 2019, the EU became even more explicit in naming China as a systemic rival in the EU-China strategic outlook document. Yeah. So this is just to provide that backdrop to what EU Asia policy how it has developed, the focus on China, and of course then the increasing competition that is seen. And then the next part of my paper look at ASEM in EU's Asia strategy. As I said, the first response of EU to the idea of ASEM is a geo-economic response, right? We need to respond to this possible idea that there's going to be an Asia-Pacific free trade area. So we need to have a link with Asia so that we are not left out in this game, in this economic game. But I also feel that besides this narrative, this geo-economic narrative, ASEM actually offer the EU its first real foray into an into building its identity as an actor in foreign and security policy. We know that the CFSP as a pillar of the EU only began with the signing of when the Maastricht Treaty came into force in 1993. So in that sense, the EU is searching for a role in defining itself, what kind of foreign policy or security actor it should be. And I think ASEM offered that platform because it's one of those where and in the paper I look at how the EU institutions, in particular the external relations, initially the external relations, and after the Lisbon Treaty become the External Action Service, EEAS. The EU institutions has been the most permanent coordinator in that sense of the whole process, because the ASEM process operates in such a way, it doesn't have a secretariat, it doesn't have a formal secretariat. So the coordination of the whole ASEM process relies on 2 coordinators from the European side and 2 from Southeast, from Asia. And Asia, as you know, when ASEM grows to become such a big, diversified, where it's not just the East Asia, but include members from Central Asia, South Asia, and even Russia and Australia, New Zealand comes under the Asian pillar, then you have difficulties for in that sense, there's these difficulties in coordinating and in the continuity. So the only one that really have the so-called institutional memory and have all the information and able to then shape the agenda is really the EU institutions in ASEM. And you could see them playing a much more proactive role when it comes to shaping the agenda in ASEM, and that could be seen in the way how the connectivity agenda in ASEM developed. And my paper show after this the part on the evolution of the connectivity agenda in ASEM, how they try to push back and reshape the Chinese push towards reshape the. It was initially the Chinese who pushed for this connectivity agenda because of its BRI, but then how this was reshaped and reframed in a different narrative by the EU through this sustainable connectivity that they come up with, emphasizing multilateral, emphasizing rules, sustainability, and all that. So. And so I went through how this connectivity agenda has evolved in the ASEM process, and show that the EU has actually taken a very much proactive role in shaping the narrative of connectivity in ASEM. And the last part, which is to me the most interesting part, but also where I have still to develop it further, is how the EU can make the most out of this politicized connectivity that we talk about. How both cooperation and competition can proceed together in order to achieve a real so-called win-win scenario, a win-win outcome, and not a zero-sum, and not to have this zero-sum mentality. So I think my main conclusion for this is that I think the EU can be an important actor in shaping the connectivity agenda and must really seize the initiative to ensure its best outcome for all through utilizing the ASEM platform in getting the best outcome. So I think I will stop there.
Thank you, Levi. Very interesting paper. And colleagues, friends, let's have some exchange and discussion about her paper so that she can have better idea to write, to complete the paper writing. Do you have any comments, Anna, please?
Yes, hello. Thank you very much for your paper, Lewi. I have a question about ASEAN, because you concentrate very much on ASEM, but the EU has tried to promote the connectivity agenda also for ASEAN with much more, I think, let's say, varied effects. So I just wondered, what's the difference in approach, both on behalf of the EU towards these two organizations, and what is the sort of the response by these two organizations towards the EU's, let's say, forays into connectivity in Asia?
I think in fact, the 23rd ASEAN EU ministerial meeting just took place yesterday, and they have decided finally to, or agree finally to upgrade the relationship between EU-ASEAN to a strategic partnership. So this is a sign again that within this context of the geopolitics, the EU has started to, or EU recognizes the important role that ASEAN can play in the geopolitics of the region. And so they have started engaging, and they also talk about that they should be partners in connectivity. Again, this is where I think both the EU, because I'll talk about the EU in this case and not ASEAN, so my paper is focused on EU's, but EU will again use this as an additional mechanism for it to shape the agenda, because it's now working also with ASEAN to talk about sustainable connectivity. So I think through all these various ways, EU is becoming to me, quite a significant player in the geopolitics of connectivity.
Sebastian?
Yeah, thank you, Leo. Yeah, yesterday's ministerial meeting, finally it happened, as you said, and they also came with a activity, right? A ministerial statement on connectivity. ASEAN is a relevant actor here, sure, but I'm thinking about the intra-ASEM competition or contestations. That is to say, what about China and India here? And in how far does the EU's role, which you called pretty proactive, which you in how far is it hampered, compromised by China, especially China's Belt and Road Initiative, which was wasn't it that the BRI, I mean, the BRI was there first, and the EU reacted. So it was until now it's more a reactive pattern that we see. And the question isn't the question whether this can be overcome and whether the EU actually becomes a more proactive actor here. And is ASEM institutionally disadvantaged because of this of the intra-ASEM geopolitics? You know, I mean, India, China, ASEAN, all this discussion with the enlargement and India have, I mean, you know all that. So what is your take here?
I actually see precisely the very fact that because ASEM has so many different players that are all jumping into the connectivity agenda, right? You have Japan with India with this Japan-India and all that. And this is where the real geopolitics of connectivity will take place, because you have so many players involved. And of course, again, we have to be, we know that ASEM is not a place where the real concrete projects will take place, but it is a place to shape the narrative of what, how this connectivity should be, the rules, right? The rules on sustainability, the standards and all that. And I think this is where the EU, as a regulatory power, would have that, that capacity, and now that they have the political will to try and shape at least some sort of rules governing all these connectivity projects and agenda. So I think this is where I really think, again, it's not where the concrete building of the projects or the railways are going to take place, but this is where the shaping of the rules, the setting of the standards and all that can yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Professor Lee?
Levi, I enjoyed reading your paper, and it was, well, it has well summarized the evolution, emergence of connectivity, and also this discussion on the ASEAN region. But I was well, so it has a very nice the content, but I was just thinking that I was curious, what is the main message? Okay, so I tried to figure out the core message. Well, it has touched upon, well, this paper in a sense is a kind of big introductory the chapter that bring the issue of connectivity. So it deals with a number of issues, but as a comprehensive pillar, somehow it focused too much on the ASEM and ASEAN, and also I thought that maybe this so I hoped that it would have been more kind of persuasive if we can argue that connectivity, the initiative from the European Union side, would whether and it would make a difference vis-a-vis the existing trading scheme, existing investment, and existing partnership and strategic partnership. There are multiple levels already pretty tight, and what the European Union and Asia can make a real substantial difference with this the connectivity initiative. Otherwise, it will be just kind of the kind of wording referring any kind of relations, and it actually has highlighted the transportation, energy, digital, and people-to-people relation as a four major pillars. So I was wondering whether that kind of structure can be combined, and also I was wondering whether it would be a good idea to bring ASEM on the one side and ASEAN on the other side, because the connectivities are dealing with Central Asia, South Asia, Southeast Asia, and East Asia. So at least there are four kind of different regions, and so the and you are mentioning ASEM also. So I was a little bit kind of the wondering around the ASEM part and ASEAN part. So I was curious what was your kind of major focus?
I'm cognizant of the fact that as far as I remember, when we flesh out this series for the book and for the special journal or some special issue of the journal, there's going to be a separate paper on ASEAN. Mm-hmm. And I will be also writing it. So that's why I do not want, I'm focusing here really on the role of the EU and looking at how it shaped the narratives of the the connectivity agenda, and not going into the specifics again of the more concrete, say, okay, is EU really going to invest in all these infrastructure projects on, say, to mitigate climate? Because I think there will be individual chapters dealing with those. So my paper should be, in that sense, look at this very broad, overarching paper, focusing on the shaping of narratives. And this is where the big, broad, so-called the big geopolitics, takes place, right? Who shape the narratives but not looking into the various, the real, what are they going to do, invest in Asia or in ASEAN or in Central Asia, in the energy pipelines or whatever, to counter, for instance, to counter those that are being put in place, say, by the China. So I hope that explains why my paper is so broad in that sense.
And as far as I remember, the paper to be presented tomorrow by Sebastian is dealing with a little bit conceptual framework of this connectivity issue, because he has the title EU-Asia Connectivity Concepts, Contexts, and Contestations. And having putting this paper as the lead article before, after my introductory article, then we can have some more specified papers on, for instance, Levy writing about EU's strategy, right, of connectivity, especially focusing on ASEM. And Anna is reporting to us about the EU's role in the world, how to promote EU's role in the world through the connectivity strategy and so on. So I think that the focus is not bad. I have, if you have no further comments or questions, I have one or two comments and questions to Levi. One is, you have discussed the secretariat issue of ASEM, right? And I had the impression that the discussion is a little bit too lengthy. Secretariat issue, institutionalization of ASEM is important, but whether we have to have 1 page for discussing the secretariat issue, that was my question. And another comment I have is, I totally agree with you that the beginning of 1990s was the start of EU's new policy and strategy towards Asia. And I pretty much was thinking that, and in that period, not only the European Union, but also US was paying quite big attention, great attention to Asia, because we know that United States has adopted the big emerging markets initiative. And probably you can add 1 sentence or 2 into that paragraph on page 2. And then my major question to you is, when we look at the EU's approach towards Asia, as you mentioned in your paper, for quite a while, the EU strategy towards Asia was pretty much preoccupied by China strategy, right? And how the EU differentiates between Asia strategy and China strategy now in the current context. That is one fundamental kind of question probably you have to answer in discussing this, right? And another thing is, because you are focusing on EU strategy about connectivity with Asian countries, probably you can bring into discussion how the EU is approaching this with individual Asian countries. Because we know that Japan already signed a MOU with the EU on the cooperation on connectivity projects. And the other day, I was talking with the EU ambassador in Korea, and she said, we have got new ambassador now, and she said that Korean government has approached to the EU delegation as well to discuss about the MOU, right? So to cooperate with European Union on connectivity project. So how the European Union plays the game, and because we know that the Europe-Asia Connectivity Initiative is certainly kind of competitor to BRI of China, but also it has some potential for cooperation as well, right? So how this cooperation and competition would be played out by China on the one hand and by the European Union on the other. So that's my comments and question at the same time.
On the secretariat issue, yes, it could be shortened, but I do think it's an important part because it's precisely because of this secretariat issue that the EU could have such a big hold, if I may use the term, on ASEAN, because there's no secretariat. That's why the EU could shape the agenda and shape the direction of ASEAN, right? That's why, in that sense, why I put that much. But it could, of course, doesn't. Then I take the comment that I should add something about US attention and elaborate a little bit on that. That one I can do it. On your last question, which is very important, I think, and as you say, it's both a comment, and I do take that, as I said, the last part that I do about the competition, you know, the competition and making the most of the politicized connectivity, competition and cooperation. And I think I do have to bring in a bit more on how these other connectivity agendas that the EU have with Japan, and now maybe Korea one I have not heard, but I will look into that, will play out in that sense. And of course also the starting of the discussion about with ASEAN on being partners in connectivity. So I would look into that and add it into the last. Yeah.
Thank you. So friends, you have further questions or comments? If not, we can proceed with the paper. I mean, probably we can, from the beginning, agree upon that we can have a kind of a peer review among us before we have some external reviewers employed for our special issue. So that I will read all the papers and give some comments, and probably we can cross-check and we can read all the papers and then give some comments to everybody, right?
I have just a quick question on the deadline for the revised draft.
Yeah, Levi, that was what I wanted to ask you during the day, but because you will be out before we have the meeting, in light of the special issue in Asia-Europe Journal, I think the Asia-Europe Journal is the best venue for this kind of special issue. So when we would like to have those papers published in June issue of Asia-Europe Journal, probably January, February, or how is it?
So I have stepped down as the co-editor of the Asia.
Oh, really? Yes, yes.
Yeah, but still I know the timeline roughly since I've done it so many years. So if we are looking at June next year, right, then all the papers would have to be submitted, all the so-called peer review and revise, ready for publication, should be sent latest by April.
Latest by April.
Yeah, and that is the so-called finalized paper. Around April should be the late.
But before that, we have to
End of
have
April.
some kind of agreement with the editors, right?
Yes. So,
Do you have
yeah,
some
Shen
connection to
Wei has
editors?
taken
Yeah.
over from me. I've recommended Shen Wei. I think you know Shen Wei who is now with Dickens University.
Mm-hmm.
But I can contact him and let him know. Yeah?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
But that means if we are looking at that, so we should have the revised draft for internal review maybe in January, and then another external review maybe February or March and then to have the final draft.
Yes, well, with this basic information, we can have some discussion about that. Sorry, why? Sorry, because can you hear me?
Oh, yes.
Yes. So with this basic information, we can proceed, and discussion could be continued in the last session of today. And we can move on to discuss Professor Zheng's paper. So as you know, Professor Zheng Se-won is now professor at a public university of Korea, located in Busan, the second largest city of Korea. So why don't you start?
Okay, thank you very much. Mira, yeah, if you don't mind, can you let me share my PowerPoint? So I would like to share my PowerPoint. So give me, okay. So first of all, yeah, thank you very much for invitation of give me invitation of this very prestigious project indeed. And also, sorry about that. I could not make the draft paper, but we're kind of at the moment writing up some further fill up for the data sets. So actually, I'm going to explain one by one. So the updates of the paper. So I would not be late by the internal review. So hopefully we can. I would like to share my draft by the mid-December. So actually maybe 20th December latest. So well, I think is when I listening to the Lei Wei's presentation, I think is she emphasized the narrative as a very important element as the connectivity. So our focus of the public diplomacy is narratives about the EU in light of the EU-Asia connectivity. So I would like to. So I think throughout the last this year, so since the first workshop, then up to present, I had some updates about the EU's strategic narratives in terms of academic articles. So I think I can add up more onto the literature review part about how this the EU try to address the narrative strategies in light of this. So, but I think it's the most challenging part of the EU connectivity strategy. It partially applied to the Belt and Road Initiative China. They don't know what is the narratives in there. So actually narratives consider is very much important in terms of identification of the actors. So in this paper, we would like to address the EU's importance and EU's activeness, EU's identification in the strategic narratives of the regarding EU-Asia connectivity. So I added some more qualitative analysis in addition to the semantic network analysis. So throughout this semantic network analysis, I'm going to show the broader picture of the EU-Asia connectivity like this. Then we can kind of see the blueprint of the how EU shows the general picture of the EU strategic narratives. And we will move on to the framing analysis and narrative analysis given by the two, one communication scholars and one IR scholars. And that we're going to talk about the framings regarding the conflict, human interest, responsibility, economic consequences, and morality. And we will do another qualitative analysis to find out what type of the narratives the European Union is using. So, and I would like to extend the further data collections up to the end of this year. So December 2020, I'm going to add some more items and policy papers from European Commission, Council, Parliament, and external actions up to next 8 months. So I'm going to complete these period from January 2014 to December 2020. So I'm going to have almost 7 years of the policy paper produced in the European Commission, Council, Parliament, and external actions. So we will do 3 different type of the analysis: quantitative and 2 qualitative analysis. So I think there will be some increase in 2020 probably. So hopefully we can have some more policy paper regarding this. If we kind of have the similar number with the 2019, and probably even though they have the similar number, but they didn't produce much paper on Europe-Asia connectivity. So I think we need to kind of, me and Professor Yoon need to think more carefully. So what is the implication of the not producing more policy papers? But you can guess probably it's because of the COVID-19 and all other possible challenges to the EU. The EU's manpower is shifted to dealing with other type of the challenges. So, and also our preliminary discussion results presentation, according to the frame analysis and narrative analysis. And I was able to find out the EU is focusing on the morality framework, morality frames. So they kind of the emphasizing the importance of the EU as a legitimate actor. Sorry about, yeah, I think I need to enlarge this so it's not well visible. Yeah, can you see better? Will be much better. Okay, well, sorry about that. It was not reader friendly. And I was kind of very interesting to find out the cases of the regional security issues and further up to Korean Peninsula and the Rohingya crisis in Myanmar and the Middle East. So actually they kind of emphasize the morality framings to the EU is a possible actor of the cooperations with Asia to deal with their problems. So actually they're kind of the moral perspective, they can boost up the connectivity with Asia. So I think the EU is trying to emphasize the value. So actually its importance in the global society. And also they kind of not the mere economic partners, but also the political and security cooperation. So actually, this is kind of the big change we found so far from these policy papers. So when we look at these type of 3 different type of the narratives we found. So the Europe-Asia connectivity is dealing with the identity narratives. So actually they were kind of the economic visions and reflection papers. So actually EU's values, and also they emphasize the corporations. So they kind of appealing their identity in the global system. I think is that this is probably connected to the further cooperation with other Asian partners. But I think recently when I'm looking at the EU-Asia connectivity issues, I found very interesting to see the EU and Vietnam relation has been really kind of closer together than ever. So when I follow the European Union in Vietnam, they recently done the FTA, EVFTA, and also they promote their education more actively than EU delegation to Korea. So I also follow EU delegation to Korea and Facebook page, but also for the Vietnamese people, they kind of emphasize Europe as a destination for further education. So they also they kind of not only an impressive interaction between the EU and Vietnam is not only with the economic connection, but also with the culture connections. And also, I think I think I need to look at more detail about the why Vietnam chose European Union rather than China. So probably there will be some issues about South China Sea issues and possible further conflicts. But I think there will, when some Asian partners supports the Europe-Asia connectivity. So this will be kind of the very much good promotion points. And also EU should test its legitimacy connectivity. So our kind of the rough suggestion for the European Union, they not only need to use the ASEM as a process, but also they need to approach the South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation, SPEAC, centered in India, and also Trilateral Cooperation Secretariat in China, Korea, and Japan, so CJK. So actually EU should diversify its destination to promote its connectivity. But I think approaching China would not be that easy, but it would be challenging. But I think the EU or China can share their connectivity plan. I think it's a very naive approach, I think, but I think we need to discuss with my co-author about the possibility of approaching this. And also, crisis management cooperation might be very useful in the time of this. So we also changed lots of the crises and challenges are diversified. So we have the crisis management can be the good mechanism to promote their narratives, and which leads to public diplomacy. And that's all for my presentation. And once again, I really apologize about not providing the text, and hopefully we can sort this out as soon as we can. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Chung, for your interesting presentation. Colleagues, friends, do you have any comments? So Professor Chung is using kind of a new methodology with this semantic network analysis and so on. So probably the traditional methodology people may have some questions or some comments. Sebastian, please.
Yeah, thank you, Sewon, for your presentation, for your paper. Well, yes, for your presentation. And what struck me as quite stimulating is that you somehow concluded with regard to the role of ASEM quite differently from what Lei Hui has just said. Mm-hmm. You said that the EU should actually engage more actively with ASEM when it comes to connectivity, right? Mm-hmm. Whereas Lei Hui stated that the EU is actually shaping connectivity within the ASEM process. That does not necessarily contradict, this is not necessarily a contradiction. However, what are your thoughts here? Is that, in how far is this related? That is the intra-ASEM dynamics on the one hand and the supra-EU-Asia dynamics on the other hand.
Mm-hmm. So I think the Lei Hui's, I think it is very much like an extension from the Lei Hui's suggestion, I think. And also when I look into the connectivity related literature, they usually say the Europe-Asia connectivity is kind of the revised version of ASEM connectivity. So I think probably the Lewy wants to upgrade. The Lewy suggestion could be in the geopolitical sense, the ASEM connectivity can be really kind of another, I think it should focus on the ASEM, but my intention to address is ASEM is kind of the default connection channel. As ASEAN is usually centered in the Southeast Asia, so within in between China and India. But I think my impression about the Asia-Europe connectivity, they need to invite more partners. For cases of India, so actually India doesn't show the preferable opinions toward the Chinese BRI, the Chinese Belt and Road Initiative, because of their concerns. So India